So today I wanted to show you an article that recently came out in a really great magazine called The Economist. And this is actually it's kind of a scary thought process of what is actually happening out there in the real world. And they called this a world map of childhood obesity. More children today are obese than underweight. And the reason this is important, it says right here, a report by UNICEF, the United Nations Children's Agency, published on September 10th, found that the number of school-age children who are obese is, for the first time in history, higher than those who are severely undernourished. So this is the first time that this has ever happened, where there are more kids out there who are actually obese than are actually undernourished, which is really kind of scary. Because what that means, sad to say, what that means is that the United States food industries, which are leading the world in ultra-processed junk foods, are making big headway, right? So there's a lot of people making a lot of money on kids, and it's getting them sicker. So this is actually a very significant issue. Because what it also means is that there are more kids that we're going to see who are going to be in the overweight or obese range than ever before. And it says right here, America ranks in the top 20 countries for childhood obesity with a rate of 20%. That's for obesity. That's not overweight. That's 20%, which means 1 out of every 5 children are going to be obese. Here are the top countries in the world. The worst ones are over here in Southeast Pacific there. But our country is right up there in some of the worst countries of the world. And it says this: poor countries are particularly ill-equipped to cope. Health systems there were built to fight hunger, not obesity. Many babies who are born underweight because of poor diets and pregnancy have scant antenatal care that alters their metabolism, makes rapid weight gain, diabetes, and other chronic diseases more likely in adulthood. It shows you here in how everything is going up in almost every single country in the world. The reason is simple. Cheap, heavily processed foods are now a daily part of children's diets across the world, crowding out fresh fruits, vegetables, and proteins. In a survey of 20 poor middle-income countries, UNICEF found that 13 more than half of the infants aged 6 to 23 months had consumed sweet drinks or sugary foods the previous day. So a lot of this is because of what they're saying, ultra-processed foods, sugar, salt, and ingredients not typically found in home kitchens, and additives that are not really supposed to be eaten. So what does this mean for us? What this means for us as chiropractors is my job with every single kiddo that comes into my practice is I ask them about what they're eating. I say, and we talk more about this in the advanced diagnosis class, but I ask them, I want to see what your nutritional habits look like, and give me 7 days of it. And a lot of parents are very embarrassed to give 7 days worth of food that their kids eat because they know how horrible it actually is. And what has happened over the last decade or so, especially since COVID, more and more people now are getting takeout food. More and more people now are eating more processed food because food has gone, from pre-COVID to post-COVID, food has gone from something where there was family meals and there was this whole movement in Europe called slow food, where everyone kind of get together and you have a 2 or 3 or 4 hour lunch or dinner or something like that. And that has completely changed and altered now. And now everything is about fast and deliveries. And chances are, if you're getting food delivered, it's probably junk. It's probably as I was leaving home to come here today to teach, Chick-fil-A pulled up to one of my neighbors' houses, and they pull up there all the time, right? And Chick-fil-A has kind of published itself as a healthy fast food, but it ain't healthy and it ain't good. It tastes good. I'm not denying how yummy and tasty it is. But in terms of what's in it, give me some major ingredients that are particularly bad for kiddos that are in Chick-fil-A. MSG, high fructose corn syrup, antibiotics in the chicken, gluten and casein, right? So there's nothing healthy about Chick-fil-A, even though they have positioned themselves that way in a very bright way. But what has happened is this: it's created this change in the world, because it's not just here in the United States; it's everywhere. So what we have to do as chiropractors, especially as pediatric-based chiropractors, is we really need to make sure that we are, like, for me, when I talk to a mama, like yesterday I was talking to this one mom, she brought in her 2 little kiddos on the spectrum, and she said, what is your approach? I said, my approach is threefold. Number one, we have chiropractic adjustments to reconnect these disconnected areas, to make their kiddos' brains and nerve systems work better, and the spine is that connector. The spine is the thing that connects the brain to the rest of the body. So that's number one. Number 2 is exercises we're going to give you to do with the kiddos at home. Each kiddo is going to get their own specific exercises based upon whatever weaknesses we found with them when we're doing our examination. And those exercises will augment and supercharge the adjustments that we do. So if you don't do these exercises, you will not get the same results as if you do. And number 3, and also very important, is we will do nutritional evaluation of your kiddos. I want to see everything they eat for the next week or so, because what they're eating will make a giant difference in what's happening with these kiddos. Because we've literally seen kids who've come into the practice in the last several years, and they're eating just junk food. Like, what's their favorite lunch? Lunchables. Like, there's anything in a Lunchable that has any nutrition. You might as well suck on the plastic, right? Because you're probably getting the same nutrition as whatever you're actually eating. It's just not as filling, right? That's a very typical lunch, is Lunchables. And Lunchables, it made, I don't know if you saw, but it was in our Kroger's right here where I live. They made, right before school started, like in the end of July, beginning of August, they took over this whole section. And they're like, Lunchables is your kids, easy to go to lunch. And they took over this whole refrigerator section in the back, and they had these big banners and posters and stuff. So they're really pushing themselves. And it's so easy, but it's all ultra processed. And if it's ultra processed, what does the body do with it? One of 2 things. Either absolutely nothing, and it goes right out through the system as if it wasn't even there, or it stores it. It says, I don't really know what this is, but I'll put it over here in case I need it later. Right? So significant issues with these kind of different foods. So that's like a typical lunch that kids are eating. Maybe 20, 30 years ago, what was a good typical breakfast? When you guys were young, what was your typical breakfast? Eggs, sausage, maybe some orange juice, some cereal. Right? What are kids eating now for breakfast? Pop-Tarts. That would be better. That would be better, LaVance. What are they eating?
Donuts.
What? They're going to Starbucks. They're going to Starbucks and they're getting cake pops. And they're getting coffee. Now, when you were kids, were you allowed to drink coffee? I was not allowed to drink coffee. But these kids are coming in with cafe mocha latte with 3 shots of God knows what. And they're having cake pops, or they're having some sort of like pastry thing, this croissants or whatever it is that they make at Starbucks. I don't eat anything there. I get tea there occasionally. So that's a typical breakfast. So you got the Starbucks breakfast, you got Lunchables lunch, and what are they getting for dinner?
Chicken nuggets.
Yeah, chicken nuggets, pizza, French fries, mac and cheese, or whatever hungry man, microwave dinner they can throw in there. And there's no fault. I don't even fault the parents, because a lot of these parents are 2-3 job parents, and they're in a whole big rush. Or sometimes they just leave notes, just whatever you could eat, get there in the freezer or fridge, eat it, right? So I point no fingers and no blame on the parents. This is the United States food industry that does not care about what they are doing to our kiddos and our families. They don't care about the diabetes that they're creating. They don't care about the high blood pressure they're creating. They don't care about the cholesterol issues they're creating in children. All they're caring about is their bottom line, numbers. And the sad fact of the matter is, it's not just the United States anymore, as this chart shows here. It's all over the world, everywhere, all across Europe, all across the United States, in South America, in Australia, in England especially. Great Britain has one of the worst issues with ultra-processed foods. They actually now just recently passed a law in England that junk food advertisements can no longer be on TV. Just happened, yeah. Just happened. I'm very excited to see that. I know that'll never happen here, but I'm sure I'm interested to see if that makes any difference in Great Britain or not. So ultimately, the reason I'm mentioning this to you is because all the kids that you guys are going to see in your clinical practice here, in your peak offices, and when you graduate and go into whatever offices that you're going to be in, so important to make sure that you do not skip nutrition as a thing for these kids. Because you can do some great adjustments and you can do some great neurological exercises, but if you're not actually looking at what they're eating, you may not really get to all of the problem. And they may still have all these issues because they might be sensitive to gluten or dairy or sugar or processed foods or additives or chemicals or preservatives like MSG and that kind of stuff. And so you might not ever get the full response and the full benefit of the chiropractic adjustments as if you did if you got rid of all that stuff somehow or other. All right? So